For thousands of years, the Hmong people have lived among the mountains high, hidden, and fiercely independent. But if you ask where they came from, the answers travel far beyond geography. They reach into the realm of mythology, deep into ancient Asian history, and into the stories that families pass down in whispers. So today, we're going to explore that very question: where did the Hmong come from? We'll look at what historians say, what legends claim, and how other cultures have seen this resilient group of people over the centuries. Historically, the Hmong people can be traced back over 4,000 years. Two regions in northern China, particularly around the Yellow River Basin. In early Chinese records, they were often grouped with other peoples under the name Miao. Although today, Hmong and Miao aren't always interchangeable identities. Ancient texts paint a picture of them as highly skilled farmers, masterful metalworkers, and above all, fierce defenders of their autonomy. This independent spirit often led to conflict. Over centuries, expanding Chinese dynasties clashed with them, pushing the Hmong people steadily southward. They moved from the river valleys into the rugged, protective mountains of what we now know as Guizhou, Yunnan, Sichuan, and Guangxi. These mountains became both a refuge and a new homeland. But the journey didn't end there. Between the 1600s and the early 1900s, a major shift occurred. Large numbers of Hmong began migrating out of China and into the mountains of Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar. Historians point to a combination of factors that drove this great migration: crushing taxes, harsh restrictions on land ownership, and ongoing efforts to suppress their culture. These pressures often boiled over into major uprisings. And after each one, more families would choose to leave. It was during these migrations that the Hmong began to form distinct groups, like the white Hmong and the green or blue Hmong, often distinguished by the colors and styles of their traditional clothing. The mountains offered them a new sanctuary, a place to preserve their way of life. But their story and their journey was far from over. Now, if you ask Hmong elders where their people come from, you might hear a very different kind of story, one rooted not in maps and dates, but in spirit worlds and ancestral journeys. These are the mythological origins, and they hold a powerful truth of their own. One of the most common creation myths tells of a great world-ending flood. In this story, a brother and sister survive by sealing themselves inside a huge hollow wooden drum. When the waters finally recede, they emerge to find the world empty. It falls to them to repopulate the earth, and from their children, the Hmong people are born. Another beautiful legend says the Hmong descend from a dragon father and a butterfly mother. This powerful imagery symbolizes the core traits of the people. The dragon represents strength, power, and resilience, while the butterfly embodies beauty, creativity, and gentleness. It's a story of balance, of strength paired with artistry. And then there are the beliefs tied to the spiritual realm. Some Hmong clans believe their original ancestors came down from the sky world. They hold that shamans, spiritual healers with special abilities, can still travel to that world in a trance. In doing so, they act as a bridge, connecting our physical world with the realm of spirits and ancestors. Each of these tales preserves a profound spiritual truth that the Hmong identity is ancient, sacred, and tied to forces far greater than history alone. So we have the historical record and the spiritual lore, but what about the views of others? How did the cultures that encountered the Hmong perceive their origins? For millennia, Chinese dynasties documented the Hmong, usually referring to them as Miao tribes. From their perspective, the Hmong were an early ethnic group living on China's southern frontier. They were known for their rebellious spirit, and historical records are filled with accounts of uprisings, including the massive Miao rebellions that spanned decades. Two Chinese historians, they were one of the oldest and most persistent non-Han cultures within their sphere of influence. As the Hmong migrated into Southeast Asia, neighboring groups in Laos, Vietnam, and Thailand developed their own views. They often described the Hmong simply as the mountain people. They were seen as newcomers who brought unique skills to the highlands, including innovative agricultural techniques for farming on steep slopes, extensive knowledge of medicinal plants, and powerful, tightly knit clan structures that helped them thrive in remote areas. Some local legends even romanticize their arrival. suggesting the Hmong were descendants of an ancient people who had been wandering for centuries, searching for mountains that matched the sacred peaks of a lost homeland. Centuries later, when Hmong refugees began arriving in the West after the secret war in Laos, Western anthropologists offered yet another perspective. They were fascinated by what they found. Researchers saw people with one of the oldest continuous oral cultures in Asia. They studied a language with ancient roots, a language that existed for millennia without a widely adopted written script. They saw a diaspora, a scattered people who managed to preserve their unique identity, their clans, their spiritual beliefs, their art without a country, a kingdom, or a written history to anchor them. Each of these cultures saw the Hmong through a different lens, but when you put them all together, you get a beautiful mosaic of identity, one that is at once historical, cultural, and deeply spiritual. This brings us to the modern era. After the end of the Vietnam War and the secret war in Laos, where many Hmong had fought alongside the United States, a new and painful chapter began. Many Hmong families were forced to flee their homes, becoming refugees. This led to the creation of a global Hmong diaspora, with communities forming in countries all over the world, from France to Australia to Argentina. Today, the largest Hmong communities outside of Asia are right here in the United States, primarily in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and California. Despite being uprooted once again and facing the immense challenges of starting over in a new land, the Hmong people carried their world with them. They carried their stories, their intricate clan systems, their sacred rituals, and their unshakable resilience. Today, the Hmong identity spans continents, but it remains distinctly, recognizably intact. So, where do the Hmong come from? They come from the ancient river valleys of China and the mist-covered peaks of Southeast Asia. They come from myths of a great flood, of dragons and butterflies, and of ancestors from the sky world. They come from a long history of migrations, carved by struggle, oppression, and an unending quest for freedom and survival. But most of all, the Hmong come from a legacy of endurance. They are a people who carried their entire culture across continents and through centuries, without ever letting it fade. Thank you for watching. If you found this story meaningful, please consider subscribing for more journeys into history and culture.